They also have a lot of like blues and purples in their color palette, but their eyes are bright yellow, and so is the orb that they're holding. So that no matter how much is going on at the screen, at the same time, you can never lose where your character is because the yellow stands out from the purple. And that's because violet and yellow are complementary colors. And that means on this color wheel here, they're on opposite sides of each other. So blue and orange are complementary colors, and green and red are complementary colors. Okay, so those are the fundamentals. So how do I use these fundamentals to make my game look pretty? Okay, first of all, you'll probably need a program to make art with. You can, of course, use traditional art and take a picture of it, but that's really hard to like get really clean, high quality images of your art. So these are some programs that are well known and well credited. Krita is free. That's the program I use, and it's probably the closest alternative you'll get to Photoshop. Photoshop is like $20 or $10 a month, and this is sort of the industry standard. Procreate is only for iPad. I'm sure a lot of you know about Procreate. Procreate's really popular right now. Autodesk Sketchbook is also free. Here, I'll just write these down. Um, Autodesk Sketchbook is free. It's beginner friendly, and but I don't think you can make like pixel art on it. It has a lot of limitations, but it's beginner friendly. Sprite is not a program. I don't think it's a website, and it's really good for making pixel art. Clip Studio Paint costs money, I think about $50, but they go on sale a lot. And they're really good for making illustrations like comics, and yeah. Okay, so once you got your program, it's helpful to create a palette, a color palette. Cohesive, like colors bring things together really well, and it makes everything look really pleasing. The colors are really hard. Like I'm not that good at colors either because I never liked coloring when I grew up. So this coolers.co website is a website where you can either pick pre-made palettes and apply those to your art, or you can make your own palette and apply that. And it's really useful. And working with palettes are really helpful and will improve the way you see color in like a lot of ways. Okay, when drawing environments and backgrounds, think about depth. A lot of the times, I mean, uh, like a lot of art that we make as students are not really that sophisticated, especially for game jams, obviously. But rather than having just like a plain color background, when you have this sense of depth, the world that you're creating becomes so much more immersive. And you can do that by using colors and values. So you can see this is from a game called Gris. You can see environments usually have three layers. There's the background, and then the middle ground. I don't know, make another hill there, and then there's the foreground, which is like the main sort of thing that's in the front. So Gris is in the foreground right here, with all these rocks and the ground and these trees right here. This is the foreground. And then if we go back a little in the midground, there are these wide structures, I think they're trees, that are sort of like light pink. And then if we go even further back, that pink gets lighter and lighter until it's like almost white and like faded out and you can barely see anything. Um, and yeah, that's value and color. You can use that to make your world so much bigger and so much more like alive. Okay. Proportions and anatomy is extremely important if you have a humanoid character, probably. Um, it's something you have to practice a lot. It's really pretty difficult, but I mean, there are lots of guides and references on the internet that you can use. But basically, our heads are circled basically, and you can. I usually when I draw heads, I usually like make these lines sort of, and it sort of guides how how the head is shaped and where the person is looking and sort of stuff. So if a person is looking up, I would like make make the volume of it, I guess, so that the eyes would be here and then it would look up. And the same thing if it's looking down, I would make the curve go this way and then the eyes would be looking down. And these are guides. Adults, normal bodies are usually 8 heads. We often measure in heads or like how many heads tall is a person when we're drawing characters. These are child, baby, etc. Obviously, these are different for pixel art and like more stylized anime. So this would be like 2 heads, 2 heads, and this would be like 3 heads. Um, and pay attention to the dimensions. The dimension you use obviously like determines how much detail you can put into whatever character or prop or whatever. And make sure to stay consistent. So I remember my first game jam, um, like we had multiple artists and only one programmer, and each artist used like different dimensions for like the stuff we were drawing. And so like our character was like this small and the platform we needed was like it was supposed to be that big, but it ended up being like that big because the dimensions were all wrong. So like pay attention to that. Yeah. And a quick thing about pixel art. The stuff I've talked about so far obviously applies to pixel art. Same like all the art fundamentals and picking a palette, color, and depth and stuff like that. But pixel art is a little different when it comes to line art, especially because what we're doing is we're taking like these smooth lines and translating it into something that looks like that, where it's like these pretty big rectangles that like connect together. Um, and it's sort of hard because we have to simplify a lot of stuff because, well, it depends on the dimensions, but oftentimes we have to simplify stuff because the pixels are just too big and it can't capture everything. So in this example, this was drawn with like a straight line where I could just like point right and click somewhere and then it would like draw a straight line for me. But this was drawn freehand and you can see it's like very inconsistent as opposed to this line right here. Uh, these little pixels. So okay, this line and this line is the same. I just colored certain parts of it. The red pixels right here, those are called doubles. And doubles are basically like extra pixels that you don't want, and they sort of create this jagged feeling. And it you can tell it's a double because it's touching like 2 sides of another pixel. The blue pixels that I highlighted, those are called jaggies. And those are basically like when the pixel is like too long or too short. So in here you can see each sort of like block, I guess, or step is 2 pixels wide. That's 2 pixels. Um, but in the ones I highlighted in blue, those are 3 pixels long, and it makes the line inconsistent. So those are things that you want to pay attention to and clean up when you're doing pixel art. This video right here over in the corner, it's by Brandon James Greer, and he goes over a lot of this stuff in more depth, and he talks about curves too. So if you want to make pixel art, you might want to check this video out. Okay, when designing characters, silhouette is a big thing to pay attention to. In this screenshot of Undertale right here, you can barely make out like the actual colors of each character, but you can tell which characters are which because all of the silhouettes are different. And that's a good way to tell if your cast of characters is, all like interesting and diverse. And silhouettes are also important when you're posing characters. When you're posing, if you draw like the silhouette should clearly tell the action without having all these lines. Otherwise, even though you can tell that they're this guy, I don't know his name, Cricket, he's eating an ice cream cone. But the more detail you add and the less clear your silhouette is, the more muddled the action can be. So when, especially for action poses, if you're animating some guy with a sword, like make sure to pay attention to the silhouette of your character. And also when posing actions, think about line of action. Line of action is okay. So think of our bodies as arrows, and especially when a character is in motion, it should be clear where they are going and like what part of their body is leading and how they react to something. So you can see Tom and Jerry. In this example, very bad. Like this guy, I don't know what he's doing. He's got his legs curved, but he's being punched. This guy's also like he's like punching this guy, but he's leaning away from it. But this is a really good example because you can tell, oh, this guy got punched. That's a big impact. And this guy's going this way, and his fist is leading the punch. So line of action, silhouette. Think about those when you uh, draw your character sprites. Okay, lighting. Lighting is often treated as like an afterthought, and like, oh, I'll color like the flat colors first, and maybe if I have time, like I'll add lighting, which is like fine, especially in video games because 2D video games, because it's really hard for characters to like have interact with light, obviously. But lighting is everywhere, and without light, we obviously can't see anything. So it's super important, in my opinion. And lighting can also tell a story. In these examples from GGDG art on Tumblr, even though we don't know what environment these characters are in, we can sort of tell what they might be, where they might be, based on the light. So this looks like general like sunlight coming from this way. This maybe there's like some backlighting. There's like some highlights on the bottom of the hair right here. In this one, there's light coming from below, and it's sort of like reddish, very warm. So maybe it's like a desk lamp. And then this one, maybe like a sunrise or sunset. It has a very nice pinkish glow. Um, and light can also direct your eye to things. So in this Legend of Zelda example, you can see the sunlight is very clearly defined as pointing towards the sword. So you can use lighting to draw the player's attention to something. Okay, animation is super complex. It has a lot of stuff. I'm in an animation class right now, and it's taken a whole year, but I'll go over some really quick things. There's 12 principles of animation, and I won't go over those because that'll be boring. I already went over the 7 fundamentals of art. But if you're interested in making animations, I would highly suggest looking into that. So, usually in video games, you're probably going to be making like 3 basic animations, like idle, like Cuphead right here, and then walking or running, and then attack motion. So walking, you've got a couple of options. You can use just 4 frames. This Mega Man example, he's just got like, hang on, let me get my pen. Basically, one leg up, one leg down, and then that leg passes, and then the other leg up. Well, you can't tell because the color's the same. Um, and the and it down. So that can create. That's like a super easy way to create the illusion of someone walking, or you can do it the more traditional way, where it takes 25 frames. And this would look much more smoother. Or you can go somewhere in between. That's your choice, and like how much detail you want to put into the animation. Um, for attacks, you've got basically these basic poses. You've got neutral, you've got anticipation, you've got the motion itself, recovery, and then back to neutral. So neutral is like, you're standing, you're just standing normally. And then anticipation is what happens before you make the action. So imagine if you're like if someone's playing baseball, they're gonna have the bat, and they're gonna like wind it up, like behind their backs, and then they're gonna swing it like that. And when you make a fast motion, especially, you can use this thing called smear, which is you like smear the thing that's moving, and it creates the illusion of it moving fast. You can also use speed lines, which is what I like these lines that I made right here, or you can use multiples where you draw the sword multiple times in one frame. There are lots of alternatives and lots of different ways to sort of create that illusion. And then after the motion, you got recovery and follow through. That's like right when the motion is finishing and you're like trying to get back into neutral, and then you're back to neutral, and then it loops. um, when animating, please use references. Like use references for everything, but animation especially, because motion is very odd, honestly. And once you start observing it in real life, there's a lot of things that you thought didn't happen that does happen in motion. And there's obviously a lot of study and research that's been done already in animation. And so it's really not worth like trying to figure out a walking cycle like by yourself. You just look it up. Just look up walking cycle on Google. You'll be fine. Okay. Lastly, keep things consistent. Everything should fit together. Everything should belong in the world you create. That doesn't mean things can't stand out, but everything should make sense. This screenshot is from Transistor. You can see there's a lot of things going on. There's a girl with a big sword. There's these black and red like robots going around. There's these yellow beams. There's like these green, bluish green like lights everywhere. There's a lot going on, and they're all different colors, and they're like very different. But they still fit together because there's repetition, there's pattern, um, there's a rhythm to the environment as a whole. And that's really important. This is sort of going into design fundamentals, but it's important to have things be consistent. There or like have things repeat. So these light beams sort of they have a good rhythm, they're evenly spaced out, and the sizes, the way they're like clustered together is really nice. And the colors, these black dudes, they contrast from the background because red is a complementary color to green, but it still fits. And the colors, the ground is slightly muted so that everything else stands out and everything else is pretty bright and like high contrast. And it's good to keep things balanced. This is an example from my own game jam, past game jam. I um we were going for sort of like a post-apocalyptic sort of setting, and we didn't really give specific directions to all of our artists, and we ended up with like a background that was like really like dirty and gritty with like a lot of vines. I'm sure some of you remember this because we shared it last fall, I think. And like metal crates and wooden boxes and stuff like that, like post-apocalyptic. And then the things you had to collect were these cute little locks with like fairy wings, and it was very cute, but it like nothing fit together, right? So make sure everything works together in the world. Okay, I know this is a lot to take in, but don't be discouraged. Like you all of the elements I talked about so far, you don't have to like think about every single one for every single like drawing you make. A lot of it you'll just do unconsciously. They're just helpful to think about when you're trying to achieve something specific. And keep in mind, you're going to make bad art. You're going to make a lot of bad art, and that's okay. Like I make bad art, everyone makes bad art, and it's just a process, and there's no way to avoid it, really. Um, so these are just some tips if you're getting started. If you're getting started or you've been drawing, these are helpful tips for everyone. Use references. Using references is not the same thing as copying or tracing. So in this example, this person used this picture to reference this sort of like high kick pose. Um, Tracing would be like if you directly, well, this is a photo, so this is a bad example. But let's say if I took this crow and I like literally traced it and, sort of like posted it as my own, that would be tracing or like copying. So don't do that. But use other people's art as inspiration and use it as sort of a guideline to help your own art develop. Make sure to push your boundaries. Don't just draw the same thing every time. Don't just draw skinny girls facing left. Okay, I used to do that for a long time. You know, it's not very helpful. Follow artists on social media. There's tons out there with great art, great tutorials. They're great inspiration, and imitate them and keep practicing. But if you haven't been drawing for a long time, that's okay. That doesn't mean you can't make good art right now. I'm sure most of you know who this guy is. Is Flowey. Flowey is only 21 by 21 pixels, but it's like it's really easy to create good pixel art. This is a simple tutorial from like this is the Terraria character pixel, and not it's not as hard as it sometimes seems because you see so much good art all the time that's like photorealistic. But you don't need realistic, like super rendered out art to make good art for a video game. And if you just don't have enough time, or you're not confident, or you don't have like programs, use rectangles and squares and cubes, because apparently people love squares. Fun fact: Minecraft is the number one best sell, no, like number one top selling video game of all time. I think Tetris is number 3. Does anyone know what number 2 is? If anyone wants to answer, is GTA 5. Number 4 is Wii Sports. So that's a fun fact for you. And then this game that's called Thomas Was Alone. It's a great platformer. It has a great story, but all the graphics are basically what you see here. They're just all rectangles. But you don't need it doesn't need super good graphics. It doesn't need anything else but the rectangles to tell the story that it's trying to tell. Okay. Before I start drawing, these are some links. I only found 2 because I did this sort of last minute, but TBSJ on Tumblr, they make really good anatomy and character design tutorials on Tumblr. This is by TBSJ, and so is this one. And then Ross Draws on Instagram and YouTube. He makes really good, really pretty art, really great tutorials on character design and portraits on YouTube. So I'd go check them out when you have time. Okay, so that's it for my presentation. I think I'll get Krita up. I'll keep those. And we'll get started. People can unmute now if they want to. It's like, and like if anyone wants to throw out suggestions on what to draw. Um, Otherwise, I was just going to draw like a cartoony sort of character that I would have drawn if I did the game jam for the dream prompt, and then make a quick little pixel of that. So, does anyone have any suggestions? Basically taking free requests, so take advantage of it. Then
like some kind of like I don't know, like a skeleton character or something.
a skeleton character.
Yeah, I also think Discord is having messaging problems right now.
Oh.
Uh,
Oh no.
Yeah, because none of my messages are going through. I see other people's are, and I looked it up.
Same.
And
Yeah, they're not going through for me either.
yeah,
Oh.
some people's messages aren't going through.
Strange.
Which is weird because I've been connected to the stream just fine, and some people are okay, but
Stream is fine. I just can't message.
I cannot message. Every message just ends with an error. So
it's working on mobile for me.
Weird.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess PC Discord is like dying or something, but
Huh.
Oh, so it seems.
Yeah, so if any of you guys want to speak up, you gotta unmute.
Yeah, if you wanna request some.
But yeah, that dream character thing, that sounds like a neat title.
I want to see what this character was supposed to be like. You know.
Aaron, when you draw, do you usually do pixel art, or do you usually like either regular and pixel?
Only do pixel art if I need to make art for a game. Otherwise, I do not do pixel art.
I see.
Mood.
Nothing against it. It's just.
Here's a
like,
stupid
I don't know.
question.
Yes.
What's the difference between pixel art and just normal, like, rasterized art? Is it just higher resolution? Like, when does pixel art stop being pixel art?
Chew, you wanna help? That's a good question. It sounds like a philosophical question to me, honestly.
I mean, honestly, yeah, pixel art, it is mostly just a matter of resolution in that case, and just like lack of anti-aliasing is what people associate with
Right.
pixel art.
Yeah.
So it's just like there's no like blurry lines. Like,
Right,
see,
right.
pixel art is just super zoomed in like that, and they don't have those blurred edges. I mean, there are plenty of people that draw anti-aliased art, but usually pixel art tends to have like limited dimensions and isn't too big in terms of resolution. So it kind of maintains that blockiness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chew.
When you get tired of counting the pixels.
Okay. Someone requested skeleton art, I think.
Well, I mean, I said the skeleton, but that was just because
Okay. So got a basic sketch. Then I'll make another layer. Do people know about layers? Should I explain that? Okay.
I guess,
Yeah.
like, I'd want to know, like, what things you put in different layers.
I
planning thing.
usually put the sketch and then like a rough sketch on one layer, a cleanup sketch on another layer, and then if there's line art on one layer, and then color on another layer, and then in the color layer I make a masked layer that I use for shading. You can, if I draw something on
I
the
think
second layer.
masks are something
then-
people probably aren't the most familiar with.
Okay, I'll go
But I
over
found-
mask really quick. If let's see, where's my round brush? Okay. Let's say, no, I'll make it light pink. If I have like a thing, let's say I want to shade it, but like, if I want to shade it, I'd have to like make my brush size smaller and like make sure I stay within the lines. That's a lot of work. So what I can do is I right click, I think. Yeah, right click. And then there's group. Oh wait, it's Krita calls it a clipping group, and then it's called a mask layer when they make it. And then in this mask layer, there's this thing called alpha, and it turns off, and that means it'll only draw. It won't draw on spots where it's not already drawn on. So then I can go in the mask layer, and if I do this, then it won't go outside the shape that I originally put down. So this makes it really useful for shading and highlighting. Okay, I'll get rid of that for now. Now I'll turn the opacity down on this. And then let's use like a dark blue for this. Actually, I don't want to do another sketch. I'll go right into this coloring. So let's make a color palette. I want sort of this like navy blue for her head or like skin sort of. And then maybe like sort of a light grayish blue for her hair. Lighter. These are all pretty like muted colors. Like desaturated. Maybe we should add something with that's a little more saturated for a bit of contrast. Let's add a little bit of orangish yellow, just as a complementary. We'll probably use that for like sparkles. Okay. And then maybe like blue green. I'll just start with 3 colors for now, and then I'll add more as I go. Oh, also, I usually put different colors on different layers, just so it's easier to adjust later. And then once I'm done coloring, I merge all of them together. Here's the background color. Dark gray. Oh yeah, Krita does this really weird thing where if you have stuff on other layers, like it won't fill behind it. I don't know why it does that. It's really dumb. So you have to hide all of them before you like fill. There. Also, make sure to name your layers. I'm bad at doing that, but it's really helpful later. And then go back in, color pick this one. In tool options, you also have this thing called a stabilizer, and that makes like your stroke like really slow, basically, and that makes it really easy to control. Circle around her hair. And fill that in. And I'll clean this up a little bit. It's not filled in at the top. And no. I like the clouds, but I think I'll just make her head a circle because it's like the moon. Okay. And then maybe her hat is let's see. Like more violetish, indigo. Look. That's kind of nice. Another layer for her hat. Robes in general. And I don't like that, that's too saturated. And then color her robes. Oh, hang on. Okay, and then maybe we'll make her collar a little darker just to differentiate. Okay, so we've got like a basic shape. To her face. Make a new layer, call that face. And then since her face is dark, maybe we'll use white. Maybe she should be more serious. Happy. Sleeping. Kind of cute. And then maybe her eyes are also like half moons. And then let's add some skulls to her cape. Or some sort of pattern. Out with another brush, maybe. Oh, it's like snakeskin. Thing. Sparkles. mostly just embellishment at this point.
Yeah, the sparkles look really nice.
Power of pre-made brushes. There's a lot of stuff in like art you'll probably see like, oh my god, that must have taken them hours to make or like draw, and you just find out it was actually a brush. There are tons of textures that you can get online. Ooh, that looks pretty. Let's create a mask layer for the robe layer so that we don't go outside it. Let's just draw some patterns just to make it more interesting. That's I added this on the face layer, didn't I? Oh well. Yeah, pay attention to what layer you're on. You don't know pain like the moment you realize you put line art on the sketch layer. Okay, then I'll go back. Oops. Mask layer. And then, let's see, what brushes do I have? The pencil. Or maybe this one, size down. Sort of like a crayon-y feel. Just gonna draw a line down the middle for how the cloak opens. Ooh, that's already really nice. A little detail right here. Detail at the bottom. And then just to keep things consistent, we'll add a similar thing to her hat.
I guess I do have one quick question if you don't mind answering. Since a lot of people probably don't have drawing tablets or the like to do art, are there any programs that you know that work especially well with mouse and keyboard?
Ooh. I do know. I don't know any programs that work well with mouse and keyboard, but I know there's something called vector art, and that's included in Krita, Photoshop, and most of those sort of programs. And it's like SVG files, and I forgot how I did it on this program.
Yeah,
Let's see if I
I
can
was
find
gonna
it.
say, usually with mouse and keyboard, you can't really get smooth lines, but if you have a program that's capable of making vector art, you can make pretty good looking things with vector art. Unless you want to learn how to draw with your mouse and keyboard, which people have done.
I remember in middle school, like before I got a drawing tablet, I would use the line tool on Paint to like make my art.
Yeah,
That's
I
how
would
I
like
used to make
use.
digital art.
It's like basically if you have a program that has like lines and curve tools or like vector tools, you can draw pretty decent digital
Yeah.
art with the mouse.
So what
Or
I'm
you can
using
be
right now,
stupid
yeah,
and be like, I remember I used a trackpad before I had a tablet, which
yeah, I remember that.
Ooh, fun.
what I'm using right now is vectors basically, and these are lines. These aren't made by pixels, I believe, or like it's what there's a word for it, but it's like these lines are made by like math,
Equations.
yeah, equations. So the vector art is pretty good for video games. And those are pretty easy to use or make with a mouse. There was something else I was gonna say.
If I can add on,
Yeah.
pixel art is also like pretty
Yeah,
accessible if you use like a
Amanda
mouse
said
and
that
keyboard.
too.
Oh yeah, pixel art is easy to make with mouse. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Thank you.
And Esau asked a question in the No Mic channel.
Oh, I
Um,
have not been checking.
yeah. He asked, so are color palettes used as general color areas to use? Because I noticed that you use colors that are similar but not quite the same as the ones in your palette. So it's probably talking about like the blue, which is like is not the same shade of, or like how you're using like a shade of blue that isn't like in your original palette right there. So I'm guessing he's wondering about that.
Wait, use
'Cause it's like-
general color areas?
Like how the cloak of your character is like a blue that's like not one of those three colors there.
Oh
Like,
right.
when is it okay to like mix it up a little bit? I guess is probably what the question is.
I mean, honestly, anytime is a good time to mix it up. Because art is all about just exploring and like playing around with stuff. This color I was gonna add to my color palette, but like at the beginning I didn't know. I didn't really know what color I wanted to make my robe. I didn't know how it would look until I actually drew the robe itself, and so I just sort of did it on the fly. But you know, anytime you just like I don't know, it's a lot of playing around with colors that you think do look good together, and then you just put them together. I don't really know how to explain it.
So basically, just practice with colors until you get a feel for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much.
All art is sort of like that.
Art is subjective.
Art is subjective. All of the rules I just told you are arbitrary, and you can break them if you want. Okay. I think I'm pretty satisfied with that character. Yeah. I should give her a name. What's her name? What should her name be?
Luna?
Wow, never heard that one before.
Come
Whoa.
on, man. It came to mind, and I wonder why. It's because it's very generic, I know. But
Yeah. That was a good suggestion. It is a very pretty name. Okay, well, Celeste comes to mind.
Celeste. Luna.
About Mallory.
I don't know why I thought the word Soma, but I'm like, yeah.
Soma. I like that. I usually look up like whatever word is related to the character concept and just
Yeah.
put them in Google Translate.
Oh yeah, dream. Just translate dream. French. It's rev.
Trying to think of Korean words, but they're all really weird if they were to be romanized. Because sleep is tam, which would be jam, and then dream would be like gloom. Oh. Is Korean for like a this is hard to explain. Like a formal way to address the moon, I guess. Like it's like if you
Or
Like
Mrs.
like
Moon.
Mr. Moon or Mrs. Moon, yeah, sort of. I don't know where my live. This is Moon. This is like like that, like Mr. or Mrs. Okay, so that's it.
Nice.
Very good.
Fun. Oh, good point. I'm the one who was like, lighting's super important. Good point. Let's see, how should I organize these? I put these all on the wrong layer. This is my own damn fault. I'll start with what is on here. Okay, I'll make another mask layer. For shading, a little more of color theory here, but a lot of people just do like on this color wheel here, they would like go darker and like or use black and like turn down the opacity and shade it. I mean it works, but I wouldn't recommend it because the colors will end up looking very dull. So instead, what you can do is usually like sunlight is like yellow, and the opposite of that would be like a cold color like blue. So when you're like do move it towards like the black a little, but also change this. So if you're shading, move it away from yellow, and if you're doing highlights, then move it towards yellow. So I think I'll turn it more towards the violet side. Turn on opacity? No. I think we'll do like a gradual. Oh no. We'll do like gradual. Thing because I have an idea for her hair. Ooh, that's nice. That looks like a gradient. Then we'll do the same thing for her hat. Where did I put her hat? Put it here. Okay. Then we'll do the same thing. And then since she is, or her hair is like the embodiment of the moon, I'm going to get an airbrush. Light blue tint. Slightest. I could play around with the layer type, and each of these changes sort of how the information on each layer is interpreted. Overlay. Color dodge, that's like slightly brighter, I think. No, doesn't do anything. I think I'll use color dodge. Yeah. So now her hair is glowing. Okay. Yeah, lighting doesn't have to be super complicated. I'm pretty sure. Great. That's my character. Oh, I'll do a really quick pixel. Do 32 by 32. If I were to make a limb as a pixel character, I'd do like circle. Hat. Her big hair. Cape. And we'll clean up a little, some of the doubles over here. And I don't like that. I'll reshape that a little bit so it's more rounded. These doubles. And then her cloak as well. Sometimes if you want something to be pointed, like it's okay to leave doubles. Like if I got rid of this, it would, like it wouldn't, her cape wouldn't be like flicking like it does here. Yep. This. And fix her hat a little bit. I like the point. Okay, and then we'll just go over, use these same colors. I'll grab the color picker and fill those in. Where did my pen go? Oh wait. Earlier. And then her hair. That's her hair. And then lastly, grab her cape. Okay, and then add eyes. Want her closed eyes in this, in the pixel version, because the squares are so big. Have them open. It's cute. Oh, that's cute. Sometimes having an asymmetrical face can be really like charming. It looks like she's looking at something. And then I'll grab a little bit of that yellow for the pattern. At the top and the bottom. With hat. Okay. And then we'll add a little bit of shading. it slightly tinted with light blue. Oh, opacity does not work. Do that manually, I think. Oh. Oh no, it does work. Very odd. I feel like that would take a little bit of work. The canvas size is so small. We'll figure that out some other time. Okay, that's the pixel version. There's the actual version. So yeah. As you can see in the pixel version, a lot of detail and a lot of aspects of the character has been lost. So you have to like make up for it sort of with and I think that's where I'll end my screen share.